The phone rings at an ordinary time of day. An unfamiliar number appears on the screen, but it no longer feels strange. Calls from unknown numbers have become part of daily life. You answer. On the other end of the line, the voice sounds calm and polite. Nothing aggressive, nothing unusual. The person asks if you can talk at that moment, if you can hear clearly, or simply confirms your name, and you respond automatically. Yes. Not because you agreed to something important, not because a conscious decision was made, but because it is a natural response, almost automatic, something we say without thinking. The conversation continues for a few seconds. There are no strange requests, no sensitive information is asked for. In many cases, the call ends quickly. For you, it was just another ordinary interaction, forgotten minutes later. What most people don't realize is that in certain contexts, this simple word can become part of something bigger, not because of its meaning, but because of how it is captured and how it is later used. It is not true that saying yes on the phone authorizes contracts or releases money. That is a myth. The real risk is more subtle, and precisely because of that, it often goes unnoticed. Today, the human voice has become sensitive data. Just like passwords or documents, it carries information. But unlike other forms of data, the voice is shared naturally, without conscious protection. And this doesn't happen to careless people. It happens to attentive people, organized people, people used to solving things quickly, people who trust their routine and their own judgment. The real question is not whether you should say yes on the phone. The real question is why something so simple, so ordinary, can become an invisible risk, and why this tends to happen to careful people. Understanding this is the first step towards protection, without fear and without exaggeration. To understand where the real risk begins, it is important to separate myth from reality. Much of what is said about saying yes on the phone is exaggerated or inaccurate, and that confusion often hides what actually matters. First, one essential clarification. Saying yes during a phone call does not authorize contracts. It does not release money. That idea is a myth. The real process happening behind the scenes is far more subtle. In some calls, the objective is not to resolve anything. The conversation exists to capture context, natural tone, rhythm, authenticity. A spontaneous response sounds different from a forced or rehearsed one. It carries more natural variation. On its own, a short audio fragment causes no harm. The risk begins when it is used out of context. Modern fraud rarely relies on a single piece of information. It relies on combination, timing, and human behavior. This is known as social engineering. It is not about technology alone, but about influencing trust. Voice is not used as proof. It is used as reinforcement to reduce emotional resistance. This is why banks and cybersecurity firms now treat voice as sensitive data, not because it is a password, but because it influences decisions. And human decisions remain the most vulnerable layer in any security system. One of the most misunderstood aspects of this topic is who actually becomes exposed. Contrary to common belief, this does not primarily affect careless people. It affects organized, attentive individuals, people who are used to solving problems efficiently, people who answer calls, confirm information, and move on with their day. Routine creates confidence, and confidence reduces friction. In social engineering, low friction is the objective. The call does not feel suspicious because nothing suspicious is requested. There is no urgency, no pressure. This is intentional. The absence of threat is what keeps defenses lowered. Careful people rely on pattern recognition. When a situation matches previous safe experiences, it is quickly categorized as harmless. That classification happens subconsciously. No warning signal is triggered. The real risk does not begin with the call. It begins later, when familiar elements are reused to create credibility in a different context. A voice fragment alone means nothing. Combined with names, routines, or timing, it can lower skepticism. This is why prevention is not about fear, but about awareness. Understanding how trust is built is the key to protecting it. After understanding where the risk truly begins, the most important step is knowing how to protect yourself without living in a constant state of alert. Effective security does not come from fear. It comes from simple, consistent habits. The first habit is slowing down. When an unknown number calls, there is no obligation to answer immediately or to keep the conversation going. Pausing before responding completely changes the dynamic of the interaction. Another essential practice is avoiding automatic confirmations. Instead of responding reflexively, you can use neutral phrases. Ask the person to identify themselves, or explain that you prefer to return the call later. This is not excessive distrust, it is organization. It is also important to distinguish between genuine emergencies and situations that only appear urgent. Financial institutions, insurance companies, and government agencies do not handle sensitive matters through unexpected phone calls. Any legitimate situation can always be verified through official channels. Protecting yourself does not mean avoiding technology. It means understanding how it works. Today, information is one of the most valuable assets, and those who learn to manage it dramatically reduce their exposure to invisible risks. If this content helped you see common situations differently, it's worth continuing to learn. Clear information is one of the most effective forms of financial protection. Subscribe to the channel to receive content about digital security, finance, and protecting your assets in an increasingly connected world. Share this video with someone in your family. Often, a simple conversation prevents much bigger problems. And if you want to go deeper, check the recommended materials in the description, always from official and reliable sources. Being informed does not mean living in fear. It means being in control.